removing Instagram again.
Instagram
Sorry,
just went down.
Technical issue. You know what we're going to do? We're just going to start over.
Absolutely.
And pretend that we started over. So everybody, hi everybody. It's Tim and Steve and our great friend Tiffany. How are you, Steve?
I'm still doing very well.
Awesome. Good. And how are you, Tiffany?
We're so glad to have Tiffany back here with us again. This is like your 4th time on the show with us.
Yes, I can't get enough, y'all.
All right.
My favorite.
I love it.
So, Tiffany, I think people have maybe seen you on the show before, but why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Tiffany Fitzpatrick. Great fan of Tim and Steve, of course, which is why I'm back. I'm not only a psychic medium, but I'm also an eclectic witch. And when they told me about tonight's show, I was like, hey, that sounds like a fun topic to talk about.
Yes, and tonight's topic is haunted objects. And whenever we set up Phantom History House, we worked closely with Tiffany to help us figure out the decor and the style and the appropriate things to bring into the house. So I'm excited to kind of get your take on some of the things we have here as well. And we have some guests here who actually own some haunted objects. I'm going to talk about that a little bit too. We're going to welcome Lauren and Gina, Lauren Pittman and Gina Whaley, who are members of Witches Familiar Paranormal Research Team based just out of St. Louis, Missouri. Welcome to both of you. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
And Lauren, we'll just start with you briefly. Just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
So my name's Lauren. I am born and raised St. Louis girl, so the area is very near and dear to my heart. I have been a paranormal investigator since, really I've been into it my whole life, but we didn't make it official until 2023. So that's not much about me.
And Gina, introduce yourself for us.
Hello, I'm Gina. Same, kind of been in the area. I'm more on the Illinois side, but do everything in St. Louis. So kind of honorary St. Louis person. Same with Lauren, kind of been into the paranormal forever. Never really watched the shows, but always had experiences. And then she's really kind of the one that got me into investigating. And here we are 2 years later.
And what I love about that is on our conversation for the recent episode of Phantom History, you can see the full interview and you talk a little bit about how you two got together and Gina, your first encounter, at the Mineral Springs Hotel, which kind of got you into the spooky and paranormal stuff. So I love that.
Yeah, everybody, in case you didn't catch that, the podcast is on YouTube, but also the full interview. So you get to hear all that they had to say, not all of it that made it into the podcast. It's really great.
Yeah, it's a good combo. So, and thank you both again for talking to me for that episode and of course being here tonight.
So I want to find out more about Witches Familiar Paranormal Research. Is that what it is?
That's right.
Yeah. So tell us about that. That's a really cool name. I'd like to know more about it.
That always seems to be what everybody's like, how did you say your name? So, in the paranormal field, there's a million teams and they all have, ghost hunter, spirit, something, that kind of that wording. And when we created our group, we didn't really have any plans of ever going on to social media or really making a big deal about it. But after we started doing it, we had people approach us and we were like, well, do you have social media? We want to follow you. We want to go on these adventures with you. I love what you guys are doing. This is great. And so I kind of looked at Gina and I was like, we need to come up with a name. We can't just be, Lauren and Gina, the ghost hunter girls or whatever, because I'm sure that name was probably taken anyway. But we wanted to do something that kind of represented us in a way, also stood out so that our name would kind of be memorable if we did encounter people. So, I
wanted to stay away from ghost, away from spooky, away from, all the typical ghost hunter things.
Yeah. And we both kind of, me a little bit more so, but we both kind of dabble a little bit into the realm of witchcraft. And so trying to come up with, something that was cohesive, something we can make a logo out of. We were like, well, what about, a black cat or a raven or something like that? And I was like, what about, just Witches Familiar in general? So kind of just came up with that and rolled with it.
Well, I love it. And you call yourself, you are an eclectic witch. So how does that fit into what they just said?
So Witches Familiar, like they referenced, either a cat or a raven. Great choices, by the way. Love those. So a Witches Familiar can be ideally in a form of any type of animal, and sometimes not even necessarily an animal. It can be,
So what does the familiar part mean?
So the familiar is essentially like, it's an upgrade from pets because they're not just an animal. They're like a spirit that helps guide you and protect you. And so it's referred to as a witch's familiar. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, very cool. I love the name.
Yes.
I think it's very cool. So you did good.
So we're gonna watch Sabrina the Teenage Witch later. So he's up to speed.
Good
Get some
choice.
safe
Good choice.
love in there. Gotta love it.
Oh man, I feel bad.
No.
I missed out on the cultural road.
No, and of course, as everybody knows, I'm all about the paranormal and the spooky. Tim has been great along this ride so far and is learning.
I've enjoyed it. I've learned
Yeah.
so much in the last couple of years and really didn't know hardly anything about it.
Yeah.
So it's been really cool. And I always say this, the thing I love about it is that all the people we've met, the ghost hunters, the psychic mediums, all of it, they're all just wonderful, kind, normal, great people who really want to help.
Yeah.
And I love that part. Like they all are like, well, let's help somebody solve a ghost problem in their home, or let's go investigate and have fun. And so many people find so much joy in doing this kind of stuff. And you guys know what I'm talking about. Like Gina, you people have so much fun when they're doing something with you.
Yep. And we've met so many amazing people. Like it's been roughly over a year and a half. And like the amount of friends and people we have all over the country that are like, hey, let's go on a road trip together. And it's like, okay. And like, it's fantastic.
That's really cool. And Lauren, same thing for you. You've just loved meeting the people and having the experiences.
Absolutely. One of the things that we kind of decided early on was that, one, we were never really going to be, like the YouTube sensation stars. But two, our main goal in becoming paranormal researchers was to help people, whether that's in the capacity of, investigating someone's home, trying to figure out what's going on, or even just teaching people. So we've had so many instances where we've had people come to us and they're like, hey, I just really want to learn what you do. Can you just teach me? And we're like, heck yeah. We love doing that kind of stuff.
I mean, seriously, that's making the world a better place. I think it's just fantastic. So good for you guys. If you're watching live, everybody, comment, let us know where you are. And of course, ask questions at any time. Type them in the comment section.
Yeah.
Okay, back to you.
And Gina, you were going to say something?
I was going to say, we've brought family members and coworkers on investigations with us because they're like, that's really cool. I want to do it. Can you help? Can I learn? Can we come with? So that's one of the things we like doing, is taking people with us and then kind of teaching them how and what we do.
And I'm going to segue a little bit from what you said, because talking about taking people with you, tonight's conversation is about haunted objects and bringing those things with you. And I think that almost everybody who's into the spooky and the paranormal has seen like the Annabelle movies, for example. And that original Raggedy, except I know you want to go it's too real for Tiffany. I know that.
Yeah.
But everybody has, is familiar with the Annabelle story. Originally it was a Raggedy Ann doll, still is a Raggedy Ann doll who has an attachment to it. So I'm so excited to kind of learn a little bit more about this, because I know when we first brought Tiffany here, you walked around the house to kind of make sure everything was cleansed, clean. Is that the right word?
Yeah, it was really, especially knowing what you wanted to create here in the house, it was really important to me to make sure that objects like Ouija boards or mirrors or any of the antiques that you brought into the house, that they were not only cleansed if necessary, because I know you wanted to create a vibe where there was still paranormal activity in the home, but maybe stick more to the positive light side.
Absolutely.
So it was important to me to not only cleanse what needed to be cleansed, but also protect the objects in the house at large, so that it was a welcome, enjoyable experience for everyone without, completely like scrubbing all the energetics.
So to that point, if we had brought something, we brought so many things into the house. If it had some sort of attachment, you were sort of taking care of that so that it wasn't harmful. Is that the way?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I specifically set up a protective barrier, because not only am I a psychic medium, but I'm an eclectic witch. So I deal with the energetics as well. So I specifically set up the protective barrier, so to speak, even after I left, because I don't live here.
Right.
If you had brought in a new item that maybe had an attachment, it would have been cleansed as it came through the barrier. And so that was an important addition to what I created here for you guys.
So we're talking very matter of fact that objects have attachments.
Just have attachments. And I know that the two of you have encountered, objects that have attachments. And Lauren, I'm just going to jump straight to you, because before we went live, you're like, I own a haunted object. So I'm just going to jump straight to that, because I have so many questions about this. And of course, so tell us a little bit about that.
So I have a doll that I bought just at a secondhand store because I thought that she was pretty, and got it home, and some things started happening around my house. I didn't really think much about it. Just kind of kept her up on a shelf because I was like, it's whatever. I mean, I'm a ghost investigator. I bring stuff home with me all the time, and then I have to cleanse my house. So it's a thing. but actually traveled to Texas and came across a psychic medium there. And she kind of pulled me aside and she was like, "Who's the little girl that's with you?" And I was like, what are you talking about? I don't have a little girl with me. And she's like, "Yeah, there's a little girl. She's about 5 or 6. She's been following you around since you got here." She even gave me the information. She was like, "Her name starts with a P. It's a couple syllables long, but I can't quite understand what she's trying to say. But she just feels really safe with you. So she stays with you. She follows you around." And I was like, "Okay, that's cool." So I get home from this trip and I come to realize that this doll that I bought, I had actually named Penelope when I brought it home. Come to find out, this psychic medium wouldn't have known anything about this doll, but when I got back, I was like, "Oh, a little girl, a P name with several syllables. I've called this doll Penelope just because that was the name that popped into my head." So basically, we kind of found out that one, I have a spirit attachment, but she also attaches herself to this doll as kind of like a conduit of sorts. So if I want to bring her with me to locations, I bring the doll with me and I kind of let her use that as her safe space. And then if she wants to come out and play with other investigators, she can do that. But we have actually, we've investigated this doll several times and gotten things. I have given this doll to other people to investigate with no other information. And they have all gotten coinciding information as well when they investigate it. So she's definitely around.
I would love to see.
And this is her, just in case anybody was curious.
Hi,
She's
Penelope.
So I just picked her up at a secondhand store because I thought that she was pretty. So
She is pretty.
Yeah. How long ago was that? When did you get her?
About a year ago.
Yeah.
A little over
a year ago, because we traveled to Texas in April of last year. So that's when I found out about it.
No, you found out about it the first time you went to Texas.
Oh, yeah. So that would have been in January. So yeah, I've had her probably a year and a couple months-ish.
Okay. So happy new birthday to Penelope.
We took her with us when we went in April, and then we were like, "Hey, Penelope, the place we're going to is really dangerous. Stay in the room with the doll." And we're pretty sure she listened. So,
So I have a question.
Oh.
But okay. So are we assuming that when you got the doll, that's when the little girl's spirit came to attach to you through you taking the doll, or did she appear somewhere and then attach herself to the doll?
We aren't 100% sure. There's a chance. Yeah, we have a couple different theories. There's a chance that it could have just been a spirit that, was at this store that I randomly picked up. It could have been a spirit that I picked up through investigating that came home and was like, "Ooh, doll, pretty. I want to attach to that." So we're not totally sure.
And to follow up on something you said earlier, Lauren, and a question for you too, Gina, because I know you two, travel a lot together. You have Penelope with you. You said that things started happening around your place with Penelope. So what kind of things happened? What did you start to notice?
So my mom doesn't really like to talk about it because I live with my mother, but I keep a lot of equipment just set up in my room just so that, if I do happen to come home with a spirit attachment, there's little indicators, I guess you could say. So I keep a couple cat balls set up around my room. And one night I was actually on a TikTok live and things kind of started going crazy in my room. So I turned on the TikTok live with cat balls, with a K2, with a Phasma box, and I just kind of let it go. And I kid you not, it was like a light show in my room, all of the stuff that was going off.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And Gina, have you encountered these things that you think happened because of the spirit too?
Yeah, she'll bring the doll with her to various locations, like the Franklin Lodge, which we go to a lot. She'll bring her and set her up in our break room, basically, just with cat balls down. And anytime we come in, the cat balls start lighting up, and it's like, "Oh, hi, Penelope!" She definitely knows me for sure, and she likes attention. She likes when people talk with her. And
well, I love what Lena put in the chat. That's cool. Glad she's a friendly girl.
Yes.
So my question, Tiffany, to bring you into this, what percentage of these attachments are as friendly as Penelope? Is it more like people? You never know what you get. What's the deal?
I think it's probably the second. I don't think I could give you a percentage. It's I really couldn't provide you a percentage.
Okay.
I can tell you that I'm very glad to hear that your experience with a doll is positive. I have not had that, which is why I'm a little like, doll. Okay, stay up there. Thank you. So I'm very glad to hear that it's a positive attachment. That's fantastic. And of course, you guys have children here, spirit children here, and that was also a positive experience, which was really nice.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, really, there really isn't a percentage. It's kind of like with people. You don't really know until things start going a little sour. Sometimes, depending on how you feel, your emotions are a really good indicator of like what kind of energy you're dealing with. Because if you're feeling drained and exhausted or depressed or angry, that's a really good indicator that maybe it's not a positive experience, and that that entity is maybe drawing on you. So it sounds like you've had the other side of the spectrum as well, which is a really good balance.
So Gina, you were nodding your head when she was saying that about that. Could you explain further?
We have had instances in buildings that have completely drained us, and twice and from the same building, Lauren has gotten homesick from it. So having Penelope as the opposite is good. And like I've been drained and stuff too, but not to the extreme that Lauren has had. So she's definitely had the extremes of both, the really sweet side with Penelope, but also the really like, hey, I don't feel good. Something's up. And it was like a good week or so. And I was like, have you saged your house yet? And she goes, no. And I go, please do that. And then she did and was okay. So we've experienced the extremes of both sides.
So Lauren, can you speak to that a little bit? I'd like to hear about your experiences.
Yeah, so that one wouldn't necessarily be from a haunted object. That one was just from a haunted location.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Malvern Manor in Malvern, Iowa.
Yes.
But we've visited that location twice now, and both times I have come away with some sort of medical issue. So there's a hallway there, and in that hallway there is a very aggressive, very angry spirit that they refer to as the Shadow Man. And I don't know if he doesn't like me or he likes me too much. One of the two. But we have gotten an EVP of my name being said in that hallway from him. And the first time I left, I came home, I was extremely sick for a couple days. And then after that, I just really wasn't bouncing back. I wasn't feeling like myself. I was just kind of off and lashing out at people. And that's when Gina was like, have you saged yet? And I was like, no. And then the second time was just a couple months ago. We went in October for a group event and I was doing okay. And then we went to lay down to go to bed inside the building. And all of a sudden I kind of woke up and I was just having like intense, like bladder issues, if that isn't TMI. But I was just like in pain. And so I woke up Gina and I was like, we have to go. Like my body is not handling this well. I'm starting to feel sick. We need to get out of this building. So it was like 4 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, let's go. Let's drive 4 hours back to St. Louis with no sleep because I can't be here anymore.
Wow. And I guess to kind of, piggyback on that and, stay on the topic of objects, I would guess that it's a bad idea to take something from a haunted location home with you as like a little souvenir, right? Like Gina, you almost nodded your head off on that one. So we had somebody ask over here, which is Kristen is asking, what is the worst object attachment you've ever encountered?
Ooh.
As far as objects, the thing that comes to my mind is we were on that Iowa trip. We stopped in Nebraska at this quirky little haunted object museum, and it's dual level. When we were in the basement, we both got scratched. We were just standing next to this wedding dress, and I was just like, I think I just got scratched. And Lauren goes, okay, cool, because I did about 10 seconds ago. And it was both same spot, just different leg. So I think maybe that. Definitely. Otherwise, I feel like we haven't encountered too many like objects, except for the doll at Velisca. Our friend Heaven took Polaroid pictures, and there's one specific doll in those pictures, same spot. One picture she's looking like straight on, the next picture she's kind of looking down, and like it's very, very slight, but the doll's head definitely moved.
Okay, that's scary. That is so scary. I'm like ready to leave.
We were both like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally had an experience with a possessed doll. It wasn't a haunted doll. It was a possessed doll. And that's why I am like, no with dolls. When it comes to dolls, and of course my family all thinks it's funny. It's like, well, she doesn't like dolls. I'm like, no, it's not that I don't like dolls. I used to love dolls. And then I dealt with a possessed doll.
So can you explain that? You said it wasn't a haunted doll, it was a possessed doll. So the two things are different.
Yes, yeah, I would agree. So a haunted doll is something where a spirit or an energy becomes attached to it and then kind of stays attached to it for any number of reasons. A possessed doll is where just for the sake of the possession of like trying to either cause fear to feed off of that energy or that emotion, a possessing energy will possess the doll. And then usually there is movement kind of similar. Well, you mentioned, Gina, that you stood next to the wedding dress and then you felt a scratch. And so it wasn't necessarily that you had the wedding dress on or that you were touching the dress. It was just next to you. So there wasn't necessarily movement from the dress. So you can have different types of haunting experiences. But yeah, so there's an attachment versus just possession for the sake of trying to rile someone up to feed off of their energy.
Yeah.
There's also a difference too. Along with that, there's also cursed objects.
Yes.
That people will put energy onto as a means to kind of like a destructive energy, like it's meant to cause accidents or cause pain or that kind of stuff. So that's a little bit different too from like a haunted or a possessed object.
Agreed.
And I just want to point out, it's kind of just like a Polaroid. When you said her name, Heaven appeared in the messages. So hello, Heaven. Thanks you for being here and tuning in. We appreciate that. I am so. What we hear so much about dolls being, because we even talked about doing a doll room here at the B&B. We're like, very briefly. We're like, we're not going to do it. Go ahead. What do we want to say?
You always say. Go ahead. It's your line.
Nobody will check in, and we will never clean it. That'll be the two things we would just put out.
Well, we would have people check into it.
In New Orleans, where we were visiting a haunted location, and we turned the corner, and one of the rooms there's just dolls lined up just across the hall staring. That was just terrifying to me. I don't know.
I just found that video today, so we're going to be putting that up. We're going to put that up pretty soon. But
I'll never forget that.
I say all that to say, you mentioned a wedding dress. Is there like a common object that is impacted by these hauntings or?
That's a good question. I like that. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll stick around. So I guess that's for all three of you. Is there like something besides a doll that seems to be like is a vessel the right word?
A common vessel, a common object to be. Yeah.
I would say it's really more about the emotional attachment from whatever entity. So it's not really so much about, a doll, cool, that's going to be the most likely. It's more of a person to person of what object is most important to them.
So like if I had a favorite hat, that might give it that special whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. How do I get us off here? Here we go. Lauren, what do you think about this?
Yeah, so that's kind of why they tell you if you do go to a haunted location to not bring anything home with you, because spirit attachment, kind of like she said, it can be anything. It can be anything from a portrait to a piece of jewelry to a doll to a random brick that's on the floor in the room. Spirit energy can kind of attach itself to anything that it wants to. So if it wants to come home with you and you're bringing home a rock from the location, they're like, hey, there's my ticket out of here. So that's why it's so important when you're at these locations and you're like, oh, I want to bring home this memorabilia. Don't.
Gina, you want to weigh in on that?
Can you hear me? I've been hitting buttons on my thing.
Yeah, you're great.
Okay, cool. Just making sure I didn't mute myself again. I did that on our live last week. Yeah, kind of like Lauren said, like it can attach to anything. Which like I have this crochet stuffed Mothman that I brought with me to Iowa, and I was just a little bit worried about taking him into Malvern because I didn't want anything to attach to him. But like we'll sage our equipment even when we leave a location just to make sure like it's not just us that and nothing is attaching to, but that it doesn't attach to our stuff either. But I feel like dolls is probably what people think of most because they're like, oh, dolls are so creepy, but it could literally be anything.
And just because it's a creepy doll doesn't mean it's haunted. It could just be a creepy doll.
I have a very creepy doll that I won from a Haunted America conference, and she has a Ouija board painted all over her. She's not haunted. I'm like 98% sure she's not haunted, but she creeps me out. My mom loves her though.
And can we see said doll before this is all over?
Yes. Let me go grab her.
Okay. So Mike, I guess I want to know, during these conversations we've been having in this venue, the nice thing about it to me is that there seems to be something you can do. Right. So Lauren, like if you think that you have this haunted object, obviously you sort of consult a professional, bring in an investigator or a medium or something, but like, can this be taken care of so that I'm not going to be tortured by this thing the rest of my life?
You can. Obviously, you will want to take the object out of your home for a while until you can get it figured out. But the best thing you can do, and you can probably speak on this, is you're going to want to get a psychic medium involved. Because a lot of times, like for investigators like us that don't necessarily have that mediumship, it's really hard for us to communicate with them. So we have to rely on things like Fast in the Box or other equipment as a means to communicate, whereas someone that's a psychic medium can just sometimes almost directly communicate with them and kind of, say, hey, you're not welcome here. You need to leave. So that's always what I recommend. I'm like, find yourself a psychic medium and kind of let them take care of it.
But they can be taken care of.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So we'll come back to this because we have to get straight here.
That was terrifying.
Wow.
Oh, it's cool.
I forget the lady's name, but she always does something for Haunted America and like donates it for the raffle. Like this past year, she had a what was it, like a chest or something, or like an armoire or something that she put the Ouija board on. And so it's just an old Victorian doll that she painted a Ouija board all over. My mom absolutely loves her. She has named her Eve.
Okay.
And she just kind of chills in my mom's room.
Okay.
Noted, not in Gina's room.
I tried to give her to Lauren. When I won her, I was like, that's the thing that I put the ticket in for a joke. I didn't actually want her. I'm sorry. You're lovely. And I asked Lauren, I was like, you want her? You like dolls? And she goes, nope. But my mom absolutely loves her. So.
And I love what Carrie just said. She is creepy pretty. Which
well, and Kristen thinks she's just lovely normally, but I have to tell you guys, this is how we're having so much fun tonight. Like you guys are just great. I'm having a really good time, even though I'm really kind of creeped out. But
her arms say goodbye.
There's more. Wait a minute. What?
Her arms. One arm says good, and the other says bye.
It is beautiful. Nice. That fabric is gorgeous.
Yes, it's a stunning doll.
Okay, so Kelly has a really good question.
I think so too. You should read that one for us.
All right, so Kelly's my favorite cousin. Hey, Kelly, thank you for watching. So this is a really good question, I think. Kelly says, how can I avoid accidentally getting a haunted item? It sounds like when you got the doll, you didn't have any sense there was an attachment, and you're a pro. So aside from never buying antique dolls, how can I be safe? That is a great question.
Well, it doesn't even have to be a doll. Like you run the risk every time.
That's her point. It's like, all right, if I have all these objects I might bring into my house, how do I protect myself?
Wait, but before we say that, from Tupperware Chaz, who says, as the current occupant of the Ouija room, no to the doll.
It doesn't want that doll up in the Ouija room.
Thank you,
That's Chaz. He's actually here at Phantom History House right now. Thanks for watching, Chaz. So how do we like, to Kelly's point, how do I not bring something attached into my home? How do I do? What do I do?
So there's a couple things that you can do from a psychic and a witch standpoint. There's a couple things you can do is sage your home or protect your home. So like here, I set up a protection where no matter what you bring through, it's kind of like swept off to the side before you even like enter the property. Other than that, like if you love vintage stuff and secondhand stuff, like really it's having your bestie psychic or paranormal investigator friend. Like that's kind of. And
I'm glad that you.
The more you build your instincts and trust your instincts, you can ask yourself, oh, I'm picking up this doll or this bowler cap or this shaving razor, whatever, from a secondhand store.
Yeah.
Is there an attachment? Is this haunted? And just trust your answers. But you have to build trust within yourself for that.
And it goes back to trusting your gut, which I'm a big believer in. Like when you don't feel right about it, you should trust that. Right? You go to a place. They're both nodding. Let me bring it back on. Yeah. So that's really interesting. And then of course having a professional. Like I think we should all have a psychic medium on speed dial. Just to say like, can you Yeah, there's Tiffany. You can contact her, everybody. Right, so Gina, what do you think about this? How do we protect ourselves?
Like you said, just kind of trust your gut. If things are starting to feel weird or stuff is starting to happen like in your house, think back, oh, I just bought this thing from the secondhand store. Could it be that? It's possible. I feel like a lot of times if stuff is like definitely haunted, it'll have a note on it. Like, hey, this person brought this back because this, and this was happening. Good luck. But just, like you said, trust your gut, trust your instincts. If stuff starts happening, it's possible that you brought something home.
So back to Penelope, and I think this is a very good question. I think Kristen asked it. She was asking about the spirit of Penelope, the girl. Like, do you know where she came from? Is she from a certain era? Do you know any background about her as far as who spirit?
So the psychic medium that I talked to seems to think that she's from the 1920s to 1930s ish. The only thing she really told me was that she was in that kind of period dress and that she had long dark hair, and that's pretty much all that she got from her.
Okay, very interesting.
Yeah, this kind of stuff. I think the main takeaway from tonight is if you're investigating a haunted location, leave everything where it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to, like, I was able to hold a haunted object here at Phantom History House once, and it was early on. You were,
I've heard this. Go ahead.
Yeah, you were in bed. I think
I was not there, but I heard the story. Okay, go ahead.
So we had a guest who had been to the original Bobby Mackey's haunted honky tonk in Kentucky. It has since been demolished, sadly, but I get why. And she had a tile from like one of the bathrooms or the kitchen or something. It was just
that she picked up at a haunted look. Okay.
Yeah, and she was sensitive. She identified as a psychic, and she's like, I know this has energy with it. So we were sitting in our library, and she put it in my hand, and she said, okay, just hold it. And I did, and nothing happened. She said, now close it, close your hand around this object, and you're going to feel it move around in the palm of your hand. And I was like, no, this is not going to happen here. And it did. It felt like a jumping bean in my hand. It was the weirdest thing, and it got warm too.
Now she took that home, right?
Actually, it's under your pillow.
This is not funny. Okay, this is not funny. I have to sleep tonight. Okay. All right, I'm going to do a quick tile check when I go to bed, everybody. So I'll be fine. We should ask where the weird frog came from. I know. Never mind.
Wow.
We'll save that for later. Why am I even saying that out loud?
Yeah.
Oh my God! I'm so sorry I brought that up.
Well,
we had a weird frog in Canada.
One thing we do is, we live near a lot of nature. So if an animal is near the house or gets in the house, we're like, I'm on the internet looking up, like, what is the symbolism of this thing? Like,
wait, are we really going to tell this story?
Not in its entirety, but like we had a squirrel in the house once, and what does that mean? The frog got in the house. What does that mean? So we're always looking at those kinds of things. But we don't have to go into all the detail.
But we did have a frog appear while we were in bed one night, and it scared me.
Okay, you went there.
I did scream like a girl. Are we not going to say? Are we not going to? Well, that's why I have to fill in some sort of mood.
It happened.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyway,
haunted creatures is a whole other conversation.
Okay, we'll have that for another time.
Yeah. So as we start wrapping up, because it's already been almost 40 minutes, I want to talk a little bit about like these urns, final resting place vessels. I've talked about wedding dresses. We've talked about things that have that emotional attachment. That sounds like that the living have hugged or meant a lot to. There's that energy. Do urns and things like that get either possessed or haunted?
They can, yeah. It's similar circumstances where if it means something personal. So, for instance, if an individual selected their own urn before they passed, and this means something important to me, or if they recognize that their spouse or their loved one has kind of had an emotional attachment to the urn after the passing, then yeah, absolutely, the urn, even if the ashes aren't there anymore, the urn could hold some of that symbolism.
But we're just talking about an energy, but we're not talking about an object being attached to it necessarily.
It can.
So is it the emotion that surrounds the object that might make it more likely to be attached?
The emotion, yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. And so when I say energy, spirits are energy. It's just a manifestation of energy on the spirit level.
Okay.
So spirits are energy, even if. So yeah. So I apologize for the confusion there.
Okay. So do you guys want to speak to that? It's more likely to be attached if there's an emotional attachment to it. Is that part of this?
Absolutely. So we're on the same level there, where we say, that we don't know if we necessarily believe in ghosts per se, but when people pass away, that energy that was in their body, it has to go somewhere. So all of that energy, that emotion, that life that was lived, that imprints into the universe in some capacity, whether that's through spirit activity, whether that's through a haunted object, whether that's even through like, you know, a lot of people say that, you know, graveyards aren't haunted, but they can be if that individual has an attachment to maybe their headstone or maybe that area where, you know, they last saw their family visit. So really it can just be anything, anywhere, as long as that emotion or that energy that they felt was strong enough when they were living.
Gina, you're nodding. You want to add to that?
Yeah, I think that's also kind of like we see residual hauntings a lot, like when we investigate. Like there's the intelligent responses that we get, but then we also get residual stuff, like whether it be through arguments doing Estes, or a lot of the places that are like known for being super, super haunted are places like psych wards, or hey, this mass murder happened in this building, because it's all very intense and that energy, like Lauren said, has to go somewhere. And so it ends up imprinting on that location.
I'm interested on this comment by our friend Eddie, the Dread Pirate. If you have a haunted object, light a white candle in front of it and pray for the dead attached to the object. I'm interested on your take on that, Tiffany.
I think that that is a beautiful sentiment. It's also worth noting that candles and praying towards specific spirits will also draw them to you in that moment. So if your goal is to like have them come towards you, pray for them, and then be like, hey, would you mind leaving my home, please? Thank you. So I would like maybe just add to that, because yes, the candles, those candle flames, and also just praying directly to a spirit or a spirit attached to something will kind of call them forth.
Yeah.
So then you ask it to please leave?
Yes. Yeah.
And it would?
Hopefully.
Usually. The polite ones will, yes.
Okay. All right. If
And
not,
if that doesn't work, there's other things that you can use, like crystals and other things like sage that have, you know, banishing properties. So if you do have a stubborn attachment that just doesn't want to go away, there are other means that you can get into to kind of push it out.
Absolutely.
I like Kristen's solution that she just shared. You want to read that?
This is good comment, Kristen. You are on fire tonight. You are getting the best. Thank you for. She's a regular viewer, shall we say? We so appreciate that. So anyway, Kristen says, in summary, if you end up with a secondhand object that's haunted, possessed, or something like that, gift it to someone you don't like. Awful, but yeah. I mean, you know, those white elephant gifts at Christmas.
Absolutely. Stock up.
This is terrible. We should not be saying this.
Karma comes in all forms.
I'm right, because if I gift that to somebody, something's going to come back at me, right?
Not necessarily.
Or maybe that's their karma.
Yeah, you could just be presenting their karma to them.
Yeah, I like what he does. Yeah.
All right, so Eddie, if you get a Christmas gift from us this year, have your candle ready, buddy.
I have kind of like one final question for the two of you. We've talked a lot about you don't necessarily bring things home with you from these, like objects home with you from these locations.
That is the takeaway.
That is the takeaway. But you did say that you like cleanse your equipment and your stuff. Do you both do that yourselves, or do you have somebody that does that for you? How does that work?
We do it for each other.
Okay.
So like we have spray that Lauren has made. It is homebrewed sage spray. She can go through the recipe and concoction if she wants to, but we basically have our own little ritual where we each stand arms out and we just say, hey, thank you so much for talking with us, communicating. Please stay here. This is your home. We don't need you to come with us. And we spray each other down, and then we'll spray through our equipment. But we do it to each other.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes I mean, I don't follow my own advice at moments, and I have brought some things home. For an example, I do have a roofing shingle from the oldest building on the Indiana State Sanatorium campus.
Wow. Oh, that seems wildly.
It was on the ground and it was intact, and I was like, I have to. But I did sage it and cleansed it before I put it in my vehicle. So, you know. All
right. So you guys said that you do that for each other. Is that more powerful somehow than doing it for yourself? How does that work?
I don't know if it's necessarily more powerful, but I just feel like, I don't know. It's easier, I guess, than trying to, you know, take a spray bottle and spray yourself down all over.
Which I have done it to myself before, like when we forget and I'll get home and be like, oh, I forgot to do this. Let me do this real quick. But I think it's just kind of the ritual that we started with, and it's what we continue to do.
Oh, I understand.
Kind of like when you spray down your fine with suntan lotion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
because like I can't get my back well.
Right. And there's an
okay,
emotional
that makes sense to
component
me.
to it.
Okay.
The emotional component makes it stronger. So, I care for my friend. I don't want her taking a ghosty home with her. So the emotional component makes it stronger as well.
Yep.
I love the sunblock reference because I can relate.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
And like she said, we do make our own stuff. So it's our own sage spray. It has white sage. It has Palo Santo. It has moon water. It has holy water. It has crystals in it when I make it. It's got some other herbs and oils and stuff. And the way we do it is when we spray it out. So like if this was my arm, I would be spraying it this way to kind of just push all of that energy off. And that's just easier to have somebody else do than to try to do it yourself.
And
you're welcome, Heaven.
I've ever had a comment like this. Heaven says, I've also been sprayed by Gina. It's much appreciated. That's right, Gina.
Man, the comments are on fire tonight. I'm so glad you're watching. You guys are awesome.
Oh, go ahead.
Do you want to say anything about that, Gina?
I was just say the last time we were at Malvern, I actually had to take 2 people outside and sage them mid-investigation, and one of them was Heaven's friend Katie. She came down and she's like, "Lauren, Gina, I need one of you to sage Katie, please." And then there was another woman as well that was like could feel something wanting to attach to her, so it was like, "All right, let's go."
Wow. So we need to have some handy sage spray around.
Yeah, especially with our plan of doing some traveling soon. So
this is very informative.
Yeah.
And I mean, you guys have just been wonderful. I've enjoyed this conversation so much, and I learned a lot, and they are great on the podcast too, everybody. Our guests tonight are on the latest podcast at Phantom History. You can find it on the YouTube channel or at phantomhistory.com. They're wonderful in that too.
Yes,
and what are you talking about?
We talk about Mineral Springs Hotel in Alton, Illinois, which is a suburb of St. Louis, which again is where I grew up in St. Louis. I didn't grow up in Alton, I grew up south of St. Louis. So it's kind of neat to have that connection to these two in my hometown. And, the Witches Familiar Paranormal Research Team, make sure you give them a follow on all the social media channels. Other than that, you two, how can people connect you? What is the best way to find you? Where are you the most active?
We are most active on Facebook and TikTok, but we are trying to grow our YouTube channel. Just with everything on TikTok, it's here one day, it's gone the next. Oh, hey, it's back. We never really know what's going to happen. So you can find us at the WFPR as the handle on most things, or you can email us directly at the WFPR@gmail.com. So if you have a question about anything or you need some help doing something, you could just reach out to us directly through that as well.
Yeah, and if you didn't catch all that, just contact us here at Phantom History, and Steve can put you in touch with them. Yeah,
absolutely. And then I connected with the two of you, I think, on Blue Sky.
Blue Sky, yeah.
Where we first found each other. So
I have to remember Blue Sky. It's still so new that I'm like, I have to get in my blood. Oh, yeah, I need to update that too.
Yeah, follow us on Blue Sky, everybody.
Yeah.
And them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to talk to us and to talk to me again. I really appreciate it. It's great seeing you both. And I'm so glad you got to meet my husband and one of our dearest friends at the same time. So it's like a win-win-win all the way around.
Why don't we ask him to say one last thing? Like, if you want to say one last thing to leave anybody that's watching with, Lauren, I'm going to ask you to go first. So what would you say one last thing?
I would say if you are shopping and you pick up an object and you suddenly get that feeling and you go, ooh, that doesn't feel right, don't buy it.
Yeah, that's good advice. Gina, how about you?
Unless you want to take it home with you. Lauren picks up a doll and goes, "Ooh, I like this one," and then she buys it. I just want to leave with our little saying we have on things: be kind, stay spooky.
Be kind, stay spooky.
That's a lovely way to end this.
I like that as well. I like it. And as our special in-person guest here, any final thoughts from you before we say goodbye?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are wanting to get into paranormal research, obviously look up Lauren and Gina. I believe that you mentioned that you like helping other people kind of get their feet under them when it comes to paranormal research. And also remember that houses, buildings, that even though they're residences, they're also objects. And so they can also be haunted, cemeteries and whatnot. So if you feel like you brought something home with you, if something starts happening, reach out to someone that can help you confirm that and deal with it, like Lauren and Gina. Absolutely.
Right.
Well, you guys were wonderful. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed this thoroughly. You were just great.
Yeah,
So
we'll do
you.
this again for sure.
Always a joy.
And thank you everybody for watching. We're here most every Wednesday. So
Absolutely.
watch our social media.
Yeah,
All right.
more coming soon.
Thanks everybody.
Bye.
Bye.